You could pay a consultant like me, like $12,000 a day to go out to your place and tell you what's lacking in your company. But the customer will do that for free. Just for the cost of one bad review, you're going to learn a lot of instead of $12,000. So that one bad review is probably worth like $12,000 because you're getting information about how you can improve. Does that make sense?
Hi, it's Emily Washkovic, Yelp small business expert and host of Behind the Review. This is the show where I sit down with business owners and industry leaders to uncover the real stories, surprising moments, and creative decisions that shape standout businesses, and help you get inspired to scale your business and grow your bottom line. Today, you're going to hear a conversation I had with Joe Crisara. Joe was a home service professional himself, and he got into nearly $470,000 of debt before he realized he needed to change things. Listen in to hear how he turned his business around and got to where he is today, leading other home service providers to success. Let's give our conversation a listen. Welcome back, everyone, to Behind the Review. Today is a very special episode. I am sitting down with Joe Crisara, who is the host of Service MVP Podcast, and he has dozens and dozens of years in the service industry. He works with professionals across multitudes of backgrounds and all across the country. So I'm really excited for him to join us today and share some of his expertise and specialties. Joe, to kick us off, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, first, Emily, let me just say thank you for inviting me here. I watch your podcast all the time because I think it's really valuable. I think service professionals need to be able to, you really, it doesn't make a sense to brag about yourself. Better when your clients brag about you. So I definitely admire the work you're doing, and I listen to your podcasts all the time, and I really love it. So I definitely highly endorse anybody listening to this. I would say, my background goes as a contractor, just like a lot of people. It's a pretty common story where I was like a technician in the heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical trade. And I knew how to do my job and mastery of my job. And then I had an entrepreneurial seizure and went into business. Which sometimes I regret it. Back then, I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this, right? And I went into business. I didn't know anything about business. I just knew about the trade. But I I really realized that I didn't know anything about pricing. I didn't know anything about my numbers or my KPIs and things like that. And then I pretty much, by about 6 years into my business, almost went under. I was about $471,000 in debt. One of my clients sensed that I was going through some personal problems, and he sensed I was struggling. He could see it on my face. He could see the trucks that I used to have that were moving or not moving anymore. They were just sitting in my shop. And he said, Joe, what's going on? And I said that, it's the economy. It was, I tried to basically tell a white lie and talk about how it wasn't me, it's something else. It's the economy. It's the politics. It's my ex-wife. I blamed everything. And he said, Joe, there's one thing you're not looking at is yourself. And he helped me to give myself the gift of responsibility by showing that I was in charge of my destiny by doing the things that I learned now. And so I've been doing this for 48 years. I've been doing in the service business. And I would say, Emily, I've been fortunate enough to do about 24 years the wrong way and 24 years the right way. I would say I know how to. I'm uniquely qualified to know what doesn't work and what does work. So definitely, I feel fortunate to be on this show with you because I really want to help. In my heart, I want every contractor and their family to have the best resources they can for their family. I want their teams to work together as one unit so they have something to work on as a team. And I want the clients who are giving them the reviews to be able to get excellent value. So when they give a review, it's an honest review that they feel excited about giving, not something you have to ask somebody for a review, something where the client asks you, where can I give you a review? Because they want to do that. So that's my goal, is to create value that's higher than the prices that the contractors charge. So the client sees value in the price. There's a reality. The reality is that the prices have increased for everything. We don't have to go. You don't have to go anywhere. Just look at a carton of eggs, and you'll see how the prices have gone up. The idea is we need to create value for those prices, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to help people create value.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. And before I came on your show, I listened to a ton of your episodes as well. And any of my listeners, service pros or otherwise, can gain a lot of insights from what you talk about. So we'll definitely link to your show in the show notes so everyone can check it out. But I love how you shared your own personal journey and experience because those phases you went through are very common for lots of entrepreneurs. And I love how you took this advice from someone else. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel isolated in entrepreneurship. So maybe can we start with some of the tips that you have for being open and learning from other people, maybe in your industry, or seeking out knowledge from experts like yourself?
Well, I think the first tip I would have is that there's a lot of dark days in these kind of businesses. There's some days where it's very obvious why we went into business and why we love doing what we do. But there's a lot of other days where we wish people would be calling us. We wish we were charging the right price and we had money in the bank. And there's a financial struggle that's real. I'd say it's a day-to-day struggle. The contractors, blue collar people in this world are the people who are in the crawl spaces, behind the walls, and the attics, in the places nobody wants to go. And I really feel in my heart that they deserve to get the best. And so that's really what I'm here for. But I think the biggest tip I can give you is when you feel like not making your problem transparent and isolating yourself, that's not the answer. The answer is to find help by somebody else who is doing better. And here's the weird part, Emily. Even in your own market, I know you're in Milwaukee and I'm in Los Angeles. I used to live in Northern Illinois when I was growing up. What I didn't realize is that the people who I thought were my competitors, if I had walked into their shop and just talked to them like real people, they would have invited me in and been happy to give me tips or advice on how to get better. And so my first thing I would say is that when you're struggling and you're in the darkest period of your life as a contractor, which is quite often, more often than the public sees, my advice is to find a regional non-competitor that you can go visit to get a boost, if you will, of enthusiasm and new ideas and a new paradigm, which means a new way of looking at your trade. With me, like I didn't get out of my dysfunction. I was $471,000 in debt. It took me one of my clients who said, Joe, how's it? He said, first, Emily, he goes, Joe, how's it going? And I said, it's going great, Dave. I'm doing great. And he goes, Joe, how's it really going? And I said, why do you ask, Dave? And he goes, I can tell something's not right. And then he was fortunate enough to kind of peel the onion in a way, kind of open me up. And then I told him the truth. And then he gave me golden answers that changed my life. I mean, and it wasn't like a long time. It took like a week. I was increasing my abilities to communicate value to my clients. And that's the same thing I do at Service MVP. I try to give I call small bigs, Emily, small things that can make a big difference so you can get that 5-star review every time and still get a profitable outcome for your business. That's the key thing. That's really the key thing. It's like, don't think that people are motivated by cheaper things. People are motivated by a better service experience, and that better experience is going to cost more money. I have to tell you that. Make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this really important thing that you're hitting on with home service pros and sometimes the barrier that they have is being a tradesman or knowing what they're providing and maybe not having some of that business groundwork to know, like you were mentioning, how to even start pricing items. And so I'm wondering if we can take our conversation a little bit in the direction of that value of working on your business instead of in your business.
Totally.
And I think
Yes.
paying attention to the numbers is normally the first step. A lot of business owners aren't paying attention to a profit and loss sheet or really getting down in the nitty gritty like that to
Got
decide
it.
what to charge. What advice can you give for our home service providers about how to pay attention to that information?
Well, First of all, I would just say profit takes courage because there's a lot of things that I say dysfunction loves comfort. In a way, we become comfortable with things, and I think we willingly gaslight ourselves into thinking everything's going to be okay if I get that next job, or if I get that, if the money comes through for this one. And honestly, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're waiting for the next thing to happen to make you successful, most likely it's not going to come when you need it. It's very chancy and risky to operate that way. So what I would say is understanding that there's a cost to doing business. So whenever somebody says like, how much do the parts cost, or when they try to nail you down on that part couldn't cost more than $5. You got to remember this as a service provider, that parts are free. We don't charge for parts. You can go get at Ace Hardware or Lowe's or Home Depot. If you want to get a person who does the parts with the organization, the people answering the phone, that's what people are paying for. So I always tell people, remember this truth. 100% of what you're putting out there is your service. That's the product. You are only providing service, and the parts are free. Everything else it takes are more money. The insurance guy makes 20% of the job for workman's comp, liability, general vehicle insurance, and medical insurance. Like, that's 20% of a business. So, the insurance guy makes more than the parts are. So here's the thing about it. I always say this. The breakdown is this: 100% of the revenue we create is what we need. About 20% goes toward labor, 20% goes toward material, 35% for overhead, and 25% net profit at the end if everything goes great. But if you are fortunate enough to make 25% net profit, my advice is to reinvest some of that profit into a better customer service experience that inspires customers to want to turn you into their champion so they can refer you to their friends and family.
That was great. And I think it's so in line with what these people see as the next possible step when they're looking to grow and expand. And what you're talking about here is really getting back to the core of why you started, right? To serve the customer, to have that expertise and solve a problem. And I think that brings us really nicely to this need for you to create those memorable experiences so that your customer does want to tell their neighbor, their coworker, their family, or maybe even write a review. So let's talk a little bit about some of those core basics that all service providers should be thinking of when it comes to good customer service and setting up trust with their consumer.
Here's what I think. When I go on a call, when I go on an opportunity, and I'm thinking, how much money can I make from this call, or how much can I get from these people? That's the wrong mentality. So I want to start with that first to make sure that if you're desperate to make money when you're on a call, most likely you're going to end in a crash and burn. It's going to be a disaster because people can smell the motivation you have. So you have to kind of correct yourself and have a motivational talk with yourself in the car or the truck before you go into an opportunity. And I'd say the thing I always say is that I'm here to give my friendship, my unconditional friendship, and I'm not going to put the burden on them to accept the friendship. So there's two factors. One is these people are going to get care, respect, and support from me. That's what my goal is, my first goal. My second thing is I'm not going to have a need to be accepted. So if they don't want my friendship, I'm not going to be sad or let down or angry. I'm going to say, that's okay. They just not a good fit for me. And that's it. Now, with that way of doing it, people can feel what's called confidence. What does that look like? It looks like somebody who's trying to provide the best service, but doesn't need your acceptance if you don't want to give it to them. Make sense? With that, it seems like the world wants to accept people who aren't desperate for money. They want to accept somebody who's trying to be a friend and try to. What does a friend mean? Sometimes a friend means shooting straight with people. Like if the client tries to tell you that they want to do something the wrong way, you have to create empathy first and say, you know what, Emily, I know what you're asking me to do, and I appreciate you doing that. And I know it must be hard going through the fact that you have no hot water or no power, or nobody's taking care of your lawn, whatever service that you're offering, right? But here's what I'm asking you. If you're asking me to do this the wrong way, write these down, everybody. I'd rather turn you down than let you down, I tell people. because if you're asking me to do things wrong, I wouldn't be doing a good service. I'm already off to the right thing. So I really believe, Emily, that most of the time when a service provider does things the wrong way, it's because the client more or less is dysfunctional because they don't know how you operate. And so they start pulling you down a path that's not going to be productive. But it's you, the service provider, have to have the boundary to say, sometimes say no, or without saying no, say, I really want to do it the right way instead of the wrong way. So I'm going to shoot straight with you. I call honesty, even when it's not popular, because that's a friend. So I think when you're in a service position, same thing. Somebody asks you for a cheaper price or asks you to do something that's substandard work, or hey, can you just do it this way? You'd say, you know what? I'd rather turn you down than let you down. So if you're asking me to do it in a way that's not going to work long term, there's plenty of people you could call, and I would definitely not stand in your way to do that. So I think that boundary is where profit begins, right? Because I'm refusing to do things wrong. I've already made a decision. I will do things right before I start. I will give people my friendship before I start. I'm going to make sure I do customer focused activities. I'm going to make sure the customer knows why it's better for me to provide the right way of doing it rather than doing it a cheaper way or things like that, right? So I think you have to give economic lessons to the consumer as if they were a 5-year-old. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Because they just think like, how much do the parts cost? Like that's all you're doing is bringing parts over. It's like, John, number one, I don't only provide parts. Parts are just something I do for free. I give you the parts when you buy the service. The service is what you're paying for. So I think everybody needs to remind the consumer that what you're paying me for is my service. And that starts when I answer the phone with the insurance company, the truck, what I'm wearing, my uniform, my 20 years of expertise or however much expertise you've got. And then to be here after the job is over, that's what you're paying for. I think service providers who are able to deliver kind of an economics lesson in about a 30-second economics lesson to each customer, they're more successful because then the client kind of is like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. No, no, it's okay. I just want to let you know that the parts are just the minimal part. It's like 5% of what we do is the parts. And 95% is the service I provide. I tell people. I think that's something that it's a burden that the service provider carries, that it's your job to communicate that. You can't expect the general public to understand that. It's your job to give that 30-second economics lesson to customers when they start to take you down a path that kind of draws you into doing something for cheaper or for less money or for substandard work at a lower price or whatnot. Make sense, Emily?
It totally makes sense. And I think the really crucial thing is by being honest or telling them that's not the way I would do it or that's not the best way, you're building credibility and trust because now you're showing your expertise. You're showing that you care about them having the best outcome, even if it's maybe not the one they thought. And so I think that's great advice. And I love how you talked about this process starting when they make the initial phone call or, in this sort of behind the scenes thing that's happening to create the customer experience. And you mentioned that being the first area that a business should invest in or kind of put that money back. What are some of those key things that you think are the first thing they should invest in to get that system working really well?
Really, the biggest investment is investment of time. The time to practice the way you're going to communicate on the phone when you answer the phone, to practice how you're going to schedule people, to practice what are you going to say when you're inside somebody's home. Are you going to ask how they preferred to be addressed? Like, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? I would ask somebody, as opposed to saying, "Hey, my name is Joe." It's like, so who cares? I mean, it's the client's house, right? It's not my house. So I don't go into imagine somebody walking in your house like, imagine if I invited you for Thanksgiving, Emily, to California, and you are invited, just so you know, if you want to come out here. But bottom line, if I invited you here and you walked in my door and said, "I'm Emily, I'm here at your house, Joe," and it's like you brought yourself in first, it'd be like, wow, she's got a little problem or attitude problem, right? Whereas like, hey, who do I have the pleasure of speaking? If you met me and my wife, first time you met my wife, you say, "Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?" And she'd say, "I'm Julie." "Hey, Julie, I'm Emily." And right off the bat, we're off to a good start. And there's a halo effect, Emily, that's created by doing things right. So putting the customer first when you greet people is the better way, as opposed to putting myself first when I greet myself to the customer, right? When you answer the phone, you got to make people smile. So sometimes I'll just say, it's a great day at Service MVP. How can I make you smile today? And I'm not saying it as a thing, a script or whatever. I'm just saying it because that's my goal, is to make people smile. And you got to say, what's the mission of doing this job? And to me, this job is about having fun, because since the work is so hard, for pest control or cleaning houses or doing the lawn or plumbing or whatever it is, it kind of sucks to be in the service business, and you're sacrificing so much away from your family to give to other families. The least you can do is have fun at this thing, because if it's not fun, I would say get out of the service business. That's not for somebody there. Makes sense? But I would say invest in the
Absolutely.
way we communicate, even from the very beginning. When you answer the phone, let's practice it. Let's make a script. There's no excuse. With ChatGPT, you can even say, what's a good five, give me 5 good greetings, and I can use that, right? So I mean, there's no excuse with today. Back in the old days, you'd have to hire what you could get ChatGPT. You'd have to pay, $20,000 for that advice. Now you can get it for free, pretty much. So I would say invest in yourself and invest in the time to practice some of the best practices. Emily, make sense, sir?
It totally makes sense. I want to talk a little bit about teams and kind of that culture that you create as a home pro. And maybe we can start with when you know it's time to grow the team. I think a lot of people maybe start as a solopreneur or in an industry where they can provide the end service. How do you think a home pro knows it's time to grow? Or maybe what does that first transition look like?
That's a really good question. Because I start laughing because, here's how I put it. If you're the solopreneur, like I used to be, like I was too, I was like that too. What I realized is that if you're only working by yourself, then you got a crazy man for a boss. That's yourself, right? Because you got the person who's trying to answer the phone, do the financial books, deposit the money, go to the supply house, and then meet customers. So it's probably just too much to do. So I would say, number one, step one, you are the prototype for the customer service experience that you're going to train other people to do. So, number one, perfect the customer service experience so that other people, not now you've got something that works. 5-star reviews, a profitable outcome. You're making 25% net profit on every call or more. The customer's happy and giving you 5-star reviews at the same time. Now you've got something that you start to sell like that. Pretty soon it becomes popular and people buy more of it. And so the time you hire your first person is when selling too much work prevents you from taking on new customers, because the best ability of any service business is availability. So if you're not available because you're having to stop your business to get the work done, that would be the first employee you hire, is somebody that you're selling jobs to start doing the work. And now you got a business, not just a crazy person for a boss. You got an actual business here. It makes sense? And then, so you create the first prototype, you're selling it, somebody's doing it. Then you got maybe 2 people doing it and you're selling it. And then maybe one of those 2 people are like, you know what, let me try selling it. And they sell it, and then the other person does it. And now you're a real business. You're running the advertising, you're running the training, you're running the truck maintenance or whatever the inventory we need to have to get this job done. And they're running the field experience with your employees are doing the communication. So the metamorphosis, I think, is you're the prototype, the beta test, if you will. Once you get a profitable outcome for yourself and you are selling so much stuff, it's only natural to hire the next person. And when you have 2 people or 3 people, one of those 3 people would be great to try to take your job while you run the rest of the company. And seriously, that can take only about 6 months to a year if you're using the right material. What a lot of people make a mistake, Emily, is they don't really research what the client in-home experience should be. So if you're stuck with yourself as that solopreneur, most likely you're in a dysfunctional communication customer experience situation where you're not able to sell enough work to sustain employing somebody else. Does that make sense? The
Totally.
outcomes are not good enough. You're closing 20%. You're the amount you're selling is too low to sustain two employees, yourself and somebody else. So it's going to, listen, the bigger the staff you have, the higher the overhead that's going to be in place, and the prices are going to increase as soon as you hire more people. And that's just the way it is. So you creating a successful prototype to be profitable is something that allows you the money. I say profit allows us the indulgence of hiring coworkers who can actually do the work instead of me. That's the idea behind it. And we here at Service MVP, that's what we specialize in, is that new operating system. We have the book, What Should We Do? How to win clients, double your profits, and grow your home service sales. And I really firmly believe that 430-page book is a great prototype that if you try it, you're going to have success with the book. That's what I highly recommend. So that's what I would agree that would be a great thing to do for all the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs out there, because I was just like you at one time, and I went through the same torture you went through. That's why I'm uniquely qualified to speak on it, I feel. Make sense?
Yes, and we are definitely going to plug that book in the show notes, and we'll make sure that people have the link to check that out. I think it's time to get to our final topic, which is reviews and customer feedback. And I knew that I was going to be in luck having you on the show because you have the same approach I do, which is these are real customers and people sharing their experience, and whether they bring it directly to you or in an email or online, it has value and it needs to be listened to and addressed. But it can be hard for home pros. It feels very personal. It's very close to them when they get customer feedback, good and bad. So maybe let's just start with some of your philosophy and perspective on how home pros and service providers should think of online reviews and feedback. And definitely doesn't have to just be about Yelp. This is in general, all customer feedback and insights.
Well, I would say that the reviews of any kind are good. So obviously, everybody would like to be flooded with 5-star reviews, and but then sometimes they're devastated when we get a 3-star, and oh my gosh, if you got a 1-star review, it's like you want to give up the whole business. You're ready to mail it in. That's it. We got 90 good ones, but one bad one. Time to close up shop, right? And so don't overreact to bad reviews. Here's what I would say. Good reviews are for vanity. It kind of builds your self-esteem and it creates vanity within your organization. Like, we are the best. Look at all these reviews. It kind of fortifies our company and our attitude and our culture. Bad reviews are for sanity. They're there to help us improve. So when a customer does take the time, let's put it this way, Emily, you could pay a consultant like me, like $12,000 a day to go out to your place and tell you what's lacking in your company. But the customer will do that for free. Just for the cost of one bad review, you're going to learn a lot of instead of $12,000. So that one bad review is probably worth like $12,000 because you're getting information about how you can improve. Does that make sense? So the problem is that our ego sometimes stands in the way of listening to what the customer is saying to us. And that's it. I always say good reviews are always true and bad reviews are always true. My advice about reviews is take the good ones and the bad ones and definitely respond to all the reviews with number one, obviously, if you're getting good reviews and you're not responding, you probably look pretty smug and entitled. You should, say, you know what? Thank you so much for making the effort. So read the book and do a magic moment, I call it, which is praise the effort of the client for taking their time to do this. Tell them how it makes you feel so positive and enthusiastic for serving them. And then say thank you at the end, which is called the magic moment. Praise the effort, share how you feel, and then say thank you for everything you're doing as a client to make our company, to help build our company and all that. That's at least when you get a positive review. Now, negative reviews, ironically, it's the same message. Thank you for making the effort to give me feedback. This is going to help our company improve. I really appreciate this. You know what? It makes me feel devastated to hear that we fell short in serving you, right? or I feel terrible that we didn't serve you, that we disrespected. If it was a time aspect or scheduling problem, I feel terrible that we disrespected your time. If it's a money issue, like they think they overpaid, I'd say I feel terrible that you didn't feel like you got value, because it's really not money, it's really value that wasn't. So, number one, thank you for the effort to make this review, no matter if it's good or bad. Two, tell them how it makes you feel. If it makes you feel good, thank you. It makes me feel good that you gave a good review. Makes me feel bad. It makes me feel very disappointed that we fell short in making you happy today. And number three, say thank you overall for taking the time to do this. Let's get on the phone. One of my pieces of advice I say is to give the customer an internal text number like Podium or something, where you're showing the public that I'm not just saying, like some people, like, I tried to call you 3 times, nobody's answering the phone. Instead of like, here's my phone number, text me or call me, and then I want to talk to you so we can make this right. Because you're going public with a bad review. Here, I'll tell you the truth, Emily. With that approach, I have a customer in the Valley here in California, up in Santa Clarita, who told me, listen to this, because of the response I told him to give to the bad review, like I just mentioned, he got 22 people in the 1-year period that referred to that bad review. He said, I'm calling you because of the way you responded to that person who was awful. Like, they were treating you like trash on the Yelp review. And the way you responded told me everything I needed to know about your company. So here's my pro tip. Sometimes the bad reviews are a better way to help you respond. I'm not saying you want to get all bad reviews, but if you get a small percentage of bad reviews, take the opportunity to show what you're made of and what your value system is, and don't get into negativity. I would say here's the things I gave up, Emily. I gave up complaining, I gave up blaming, I gave up negativity. So I just say, you know what? I'm not going to participate. Negativity is a boundary I'm not going to take on myself. And I suggest that all service providers please try to not participate in negativity. And if you ever heard of the thing called the Serenity Prayer, you should say it. Accept the things you cannot change. Have the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. That's what I try and tell you. So I hope that helps all the blue collar service professional out there.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get a notification each week that we drop a new episode. And check out business.yelp.com. That's where you can go to claim or manage your free business user account. You can also comment below if you have questions, or reach me directly at podcasts@yelp.com. I'd love to know, especially if you want to be a guest on the show. And to check out Joe's podcast, just search Service MVP Podcast, or head to the link in this episode description. He has tons of great advice and previous guests who are all home service professionals. See you next time.